is Nimasa This Week, the authorized voice for the maritime sector. My name is Iresiola Doyle and you are welcome. Now, June 25th, 2013 was a day set aside by the International Maritime Organization to honor seafarers all around the world. This day was designated the Day of the Seafarer. Now, our first feature on the show this week is on this special day.
From time immemorial, civilization has owed the fraternity of seafarers a huge debt. It was seafaring that opened up the world, as explorers set sail on high seas to discover new worlds and push the frontiers of commerce to new heights. From the days of the ancient galleons to modern-day huge ocean-going vessels, man has had to depend on the spirit of adventure that all seafarers possess in abundance for the growth of commerce and indeed culture. Entire continents became populated by people from distant lands who were brought there through the seas courtesy of the ubiquitous seafarer. However, it was in the year 2010 that the world thought it fit to honor this set of individuals who have more than any group of people affected the fortunes of our world. The International Maritime Organization in 2010 decided that a day be set aside each year to honor and pay tribute to the seafarer. That day is the 25th of June. The Day of the Seafarer was thus instituted to acknowledge the social and economic contributions of millions of seafarers around the world. Practically every maritime nation of the world contributes to the pool of over 1.5 million seafarers who man ocean-going vessels and boats all over the world. Nigeria has its share of qualified seafarers. Captain Alao, who is now a ship's surveyor with Nimasa, was once an active seafarer, and we asked him what qualities a good seafarer must have.
Enormous burden is placed on person who is at sea, and therefore you need character, discipline, you need knowledge, you need competency.
It is estimated by the IMO that 90% of the world's goods is transported by ships. Statistics indicate that each year, no less than 255 million tons of grains, 4.5 million tons of tea, 300 million tons of paper, and 900 million tons of oil were transported by ships. In fact, the bulk of the 60 million motor vehicles produced in 2012 were transported to markets all over the world by ships. Indeed, it is estimated by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, that merchant ships contributed no less than $380 million to the global economy. All this goes to underscore the extent the world depends on seafarers, which brings up the issue of how mindful seafarers are of this enormous responsibility.
You know, all over the world, when the ship comes back from a long voyage, it is celebrated. The seafarers are celebrated. And when you look at, you want to win a war quickly, go for economic blockade. So it is that discipline that you must get the good from A to B safely, and that the world trade, 80% is maritime. People are expecting you. Look at the multiplier effect, the industries surrounding what you are doing. So that keeps you, makes you to know that the importance of your profession and the sacrifice you are making. You hold it at highest esteem, that they need you.
Merchant shipping is reputed as being the most environmentally friendly and cost-effective mode of transporting goods around the world. However, the sea can be unpredictable and given to adverse conditions, making seafaring a rather dangerous endeavor. Seafarers are exposed to extreme hazards at sea, coming not only from nature but even criminal activity. This puts a demand on seafarers to be brave and courageous.
You have to be very courageous, because you are your brother's keeper at sea. There is no fireman who will come and help you fight fire. There is nobody who will come and help you fight piracy. You are your brother's keeper. You know, nobody. If you are 20 on board, it's just 20 of you that must help one another. Injury to one is injury to all. So you need to be disciplined. You need to do your job. You don't carry job over to another person. You need to be knowledgeable. You do it right. But when others are sleeping, you are the only one on watch. The life of the people is on your head. The property, the pollution to the environment, the goods you carry, the ship itself, in fact, it's a lot of burden on you. And therefore, for that 4 hours, any other time, you are 100% concentration.
Even with the advent of faster and more efficient ocean-going vessels, seafarers still spend a good part of their lives at sea, away from their families and loved ones.
We are all human beings. We have flesh and blood. Averagely, the man will be homesick. You have gone far away from home. Your family will miss you, your wife. Even your small children will not recognize you when you come back. And the little role you should play in the society, you will not be there. Say your mother is dead. You'll be told on phone. But human beings are created to stay on the land, not on the water. You are not fish. But there you are. You have call of duty. You are away. And a lot of things will happen before you. There are people during the war that war is declared during the Nigerian Civil War. They had to drop in Syria alone and Congo. And that means they are separated from their family until the war is over. Apart from the initial absence from home. So it's a lot of sacrifice.
This year, the theme of the Day of the Seafarer is Faces of the Sea. It aims to put the spotlight on the human face of shipping and the sacrifices and contributions that are made daily by seafarers who are truly the unsung heroes of global commerce. The ISPS Code major objective is to tackle security threats to ship and port facilities in the maritime transport sector. This week, we shall continue with the guidelines for the implementation and governance of the code in Nigeria. Registration with Nimasa is mandatory for new ports before commencing operations. Every port facility is expected to appoint a registered security organization (RSO) to assist them in achieving and maintaining ISPS code compliance status. Such appointments must also be approved by Nimasa as the designated authority. The ISPS code also makes it mandatory for all port facilities to have security plans, which is drawn up from the result of the Port Facility Security Plan Assessment. Nimasa or its registered security organization RSO shall review and approve such security plans for port facilities. The plan must be reviewed on an annual basis or whenever any major modification is made to the port facility.
Up next is a new segment of Nimasa this week. Stay tuned.
Ministerial delegation on budget implementation from the Federal Ministry of Transport paid a working visit to Nimasa recently. The objective of the visit was to harmonize the budget performance of Nimasa as an agency superintended by the ministry. The leader of the delegation, Honorable Zilani Waziri, went on further to explain the mission of the delegation.
The wisdom of having this committee on ground to monitor the performances and analyze whatever challenges are underway towards implementing respective bodies and the agencies. At the same time, address all challenges of which only the Honorable Minister is in a position to do. Analyze those challenges, see how best we could address the challenges for better performances. At the same time, appreciate your predicaments towards internally generated revenue during the course of this fiscal year. But also to respectfully take detailed inspection of all the projects in their given locations. The idea is to make sure in each subsequent fiscal year, the commitment of the Honorable Minister with regards transforming the sector and delivering it to the next level is strictly monitored and assured.
Responding, the Director General of Nimasa, Ziakede Patrick Akpobulokemi, took time to enumerate the issues that affect the agency's ability to improve on its budget performance.
Implementation of budget generally in Nigeria has been a problem, and some of the problems we may be facing in the agency are similar to what others are also facing. The first thing that happens is our budgeting system. What we also realize is that sometimes the agency finishing before the deadline, taking it to the ministry, there's already a timeline, taking it to the budget office, from budget office, maybe taking it to the National Assembly. A lot of time is being wasted. So that is where the problem begins, from designing the budget. Then the other thing that is critical again, for a developing country, which is also beyond what me or you can do, for a developing country to tie its budget for 12 months is a wrong idea. Our budgets ought to span 3, 4, 5 years. Then in between, if you need adjustments to be made, you will approach the National Assembly.
The head of public relations of Nimasa, Mr. Isiche Osangbi, has issued a press release in which he announced the agency's decision to serve detention notices/orders on vessels belonging to or chartered by the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Company Limited, NLNG. The detention notice follows the refusal of NLNG to abide by the outcome of the negotiated settlement arrived at through the mediation process that the company willingly instigated and subscribed to. By this action, the NLNG is in flagrant violation of the laws of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who holds 49% equity in the company. It must be noted that as a substantial equity holder in the company, the government endorsed the agreement reached after the mediation process.
The Maritime Labour Convention of 2006, which was recently ratified by the federal government, has found its way to the headquarters of the International Labour Organization in Geneva, Switzerland for formal lodgement. By this, Nigeria has joined the League of Responsible Nations who have ratified this convention. Now, the Nigerian delegation to the ILO was led by the Honorable Minister of Labour, Chief Emeka Nwogu. Here's that report as prepared by Edward Osage of Nimasa, who was a member of that delegation.
The ILO's Maritime Labour Convention 2006 provides comprehensive rights and protection at work for the world's more than 1.2 million seafarers. The convention sets out seafarers' rights to decent conditions of work on a wide range of subjects and aims to be globally applicable. It has been designed to become a global instrument known as a fourth pillar of the international regulatory regime for quality shipping, complementing the key conventions of the International Maritime Organization, IMO. The MLC 2006 will revise 36 conventions and 1 protocol immediately it enters into force. The Director General of the ILO, Mr. Guy Ryder, described the presentation of Nigeria's instrument of ratification to the organization as the highlight of the 102nd session, which took place in Geneva, Switzerland. The Minister of Labour and Productivity, Chief Emeka Nwogu, led Nigeria's delegation, which included the DG Nimasa, Mr. Ziakede Akpobulokemi, who was represented by the agency's Executive Director, Maritime Labour and Cabotage Services, Barrister Callistus Obi, Nimasa Board Member Mrs. Teresa Brima, officials of the Transport and Labour and Productivity Ministries, members of the National Assembly, organized labour and other stakeholders were in attendance. Speaking to journalists shortly after handing over the ratification instrument to the DG ILO, the Honourable Minister of Labour and Productivity, Chief Emeka Nwogu, noted that the quest to provide decent and productive jobs for the teeming youths of Nigeria was the reason the President Jonathan administration demonstrated exemplary commitment to the ratification of the MLC 2006.
Concern for member states In my speech, in my statement on behalf of the Nigerian delegation, I stated what the Nigerian government is doing vis-a-vis the transformation agenda of Mr. President, which is being fully implemented and which includes the concerns of ILO for this year's 102 conference. And again, I talked about the midterm report of Mr. President, which is all encapsulating of all we've been doing in the country. So the transformational efforts of the current DG of ILO is in sync with the transformation agenda already put in place by Mr. President in our country.
On his part, DG's Nimasa representative, the agency's Executive Director of Maritime Labour and Cabotage Services, Barrister Callistus Obi, described the ratification of the convention by Nigeria as a watershed in the Nigerian maritime sector.
The ratification is a defining moment for the Nigerian maritime sector. It comes with a whole lot of activities that will greatly impact on the maritime sector in terms of labor, in terms of crewing. As a matter of fact, it opens a new vista entirely. So it's a whole lot of program. Today we've just finished with the ratification, the submission of the instrument. When we get back home, we'll begin an entirely new process that will turn the sector around.
With this submission, Nigeria became the 5th country from Africa and the 38th country amongst the 185 member organization to ratify the convention. Otumba Kunle Folarin is the chairman, Nigerian Seafarers Welfare Board. He also witnessed history made in Geneva.
It's been a struggle to make sure that Nigeria joins the international maritime community, has a voice in the international community, and win in that process a mandate for the welfare of Nigerian seafarers. Today, the document has been deposited, and I assure you we are going to move forward from now.
The obsolete conventions that the MLC 2006 seek to revise immediately it enters into force include the Hours of Work and Manning Sea Convention of 1936, the Holiday with Pay Sea Convention of 1936, Minimum Age Sea Convention of 1920, amongst others. Alhaji Issa Baba, the immediate past Director of Maritime Labour Services of Nimasa, could not hide his joy at the success story of the agency, expressing gratitude to the present management of Nimasa.
Today, all the day this instrument was ratified and signed by the President was one of the happiest days in my life. Basically because we started this journey for a very long time. We tried all we could to get it done. It is done. It is a big relief to the millions of Nigerian seafarers, whom I believe should be very grateful to Nimasa and to the DG in particular, who has put in so much commitment and sacrifice to ensure that this thing has been done.
Now that the country has submitted the ratification instruments to the ILO, the next stage is domestication of the convention. The Chairman House Committee on Treaties and Agreements, Honorable Dayo Bush Alebioshu, took to the podium at a dinner hosted in honor of the Nigerian delegation and foreigners seeking investment opportunities in the Nigerian maritime sector to assure all stakeholders that the legislator is operating on the same page with them in their quest to make Nigeria a model in the maritime sector.
The laws of our land says that no treaty shall have the force of law until it has been domesticated by the National Assembly. Section 12 of the Constitution, to be precise. And this is why we have found ourselves here. There's always a reason for wanting to enter into one treaty or the other. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe it is basically because of the features and the benefits of those treaties. And not until domestication has taken place before we can actually realize the features and the benefits of those treaties.
The gains of the journey so far will be better appreciated when the country's potentials in the maritime sector are fully harnessed in the nearest future.
With the submission of the ratification document
of the Maritime Labour Convention 2006 to the International Labour Organization, Nigerian maritime sector can be rest assured that Nimasa is working towards ensuring that the best interest of the human component is well taken care of. Osaji Edward reporting for Nimasa This Week in Geneva.
The recently held ministerial platform where ministers presented their midterm report to Nigerians is still attracting a lot of attention from stakeholders, especially within the transport sector. Now, we had the opportunity of speaking to a very senior aide to the Minister of Transport. Here's that report now.
Stakeholders in the transport sector have indicated their satisfaction with the performance of the Federal Ministry of Transport under the leadership of the Honorable Minister, Senator Idris Umar. The minister's midterm report is presented at the last ministerial platform program, where he enumerated the ministry's successes, has resonated with many stakeholders, many of whom were particularly pleased with the progress made in the rail sector. Underscoring the premium the ministry places on developing a viable rail network is the Special Assistant to the Honorable Minister on Technical Matters, Professor William Istifanis, who visited Nimasa recently.
Perhaps only in Lagos that some skeletal services were being done. So if you are from other parts of this country, you don't even remember how the railways are. But because of the concerted effort of this minister, the narrow gauge rails have been rehabilitated. There are two main corridors of the railways. There is a western corridor that starts from Lagos and ends up in Kano. And this entire track has been rehabilitated, and the trains have come back. They are moving once more. Trains move from Lagos to Kano at least once in a week. It carries passengers as well as goods. There is also a second line which is called the Eastern Corridor, which starts from Port Harcourt and it ends up in Maiduguri. But in addition to this, there is also projects on the standard gauge. There is one that starts from Itakpe to Ajakuta to Warri. It's a standard gauge rail line. By standard gauge, we mean a much wider track that can accommodate faster going trains. That project, the laying of the track itself is completed 100%. What is ongoing now is work on the signaling aspect, what will control the fast moving train.
Stakeholders also expressed their satisfaction with the news that Nimasa was appointed the designated authority to implement the ISPS code in Nigeria.
Nimasa is the government agency that was established to take care of maritime administration and safety. Now, if Nimasa is in charge of maritime administration, naturally they should be saddled with that responsibility. And because the Ministry of Transport is the supervising ministry for Nimasa, it gave it the enablement and the strength to be able to discharge its constitutional responsibility. And that is why it was made so.
The integration of coastal maritime transportation with a viable rail network, as well as the need to open up the inland waterways, appears to be a concerted goal of the ministry. Professor Istifanos elaborated on the opening up of our inland waterways as well as inland ports.
That the lower Niger River has been dredged completely from Onitsha up to Baro. Baro is in Niger State and Onitsha is in Anambra State. So that dredging is completed 100% and is navigable. What remains is the construction of the river ports. The one in Onitsha has been completed and it has been commissioned by Mr. President sometimes in 2012.
Professor Istifanos also revealed that the Maritime Academy of Nigeria, ORON, was going to be upgraded into a degree-awarding institution, and he was particularly happy with Nimasa's role in realizing this laudable objective.
Nimasa too has done very well in supporting the Maritime Academy in ORON. Aside from the statutory allocations that they give them, Nimasa has been able to give some intervention to the tune of about ₦1 billion, and they have done so for about 2 years now, which has gone a long way to strengthening the academy, because there is the plan to transform the academy into a degree awarding institution, and this intervention that Nimasa had given would go a long way to improving the infrastructure of the institution.
And that is our show for this week. As always, we hope we kept you educated and informed. Now, please don't forget, Nimasa this week is an interactive show. We want to hear what you're thinking, your comments, even your criticisms. All you need to do is to send that email to the address currently showing on your screen. Now, I'm going to be here same time, same station next week. Until then, I'm wishing you smooth sailing and bon voyage.